It broke already?
Now, if you notice above the door it says Queen 1915. That tells you two things. The name of the mine you're entering is the Queen. And 1915 is the year it's commissioned or started. Now, there are 29 major mines in Bisbee. You enter any one of them through the main entrance, and you're going to find either above the door or on the side post the name of that mine and the year in which it is started. Now, the ore is discovered on the outside of this mountain 1877, 1878, they began mining. By 1915, they're so deep into this mountain, they need a better way to get men equipment in and the ore back out, so you have the cutting of the Queen. Now, the Queen has 7 levels. You're on level 3, 2 below you, and there are 4 levels above us. Now, inside the Queen, there's over 150 miles of tunnel and track. To give you a perspective on that, if you lay that end to end up Highway 80 or Highway 92 leaving Bisbee, go through Benson, go through Tucson, and you'll be at Casa Grande before you exit the tunnel. That's in one mine. 29 major mines. They will stretch all the way from the Pacific in California to the Atlantic in Florida, and you'll have about 300 miles of tunnel left over when you get there. So 97 years of digging has somewhat of a Swiss cheese effect underground. Now, if you look straight ahead, you're going to see a red light. Just before we get to that red light, if you look off to your left, you're going to see an incline shaft. Now, a shaft means it's a vertical cut. When you talk cross cuts, tunnels, you're talking a horizontal cut. So this is a vertical cut, 45-degree angle, starts on the surface, about 400 feet to our right, drops 300 to 400 feet below us. On the left side, you see a set of wooden stairs. The miner coming to work has to walk down those stairs to get to the level of the mine that he's working at. Gets off, works 10 hours, walks back out. Now, the time that you spend on the stairwell is your time, not company time. So that is like walking to work. On the right side, you'll see a small ore cart sitting on tracks. That is called a skiff. Cable hooks to the front, fill it with ore below, pull to the surface, dump, lower it back down, and refilled again. And that's how one of the original ways that they would get the ore out of here. But if you look at these walls, you'll notice they're blackened. The black is not the natural color. The gray that you see, or the white, is the natural color. You're in a real hard limestone. But the black is from fires. In 1943, this mine is decommissioned, which means the tunnels are shut down. In 1945, Phelps Dodge opens it as a firefighter school for underground firefighters, or the helmet crews. One of the last tasks they have to do, they set this tunnel on fire, stacking flammables in it, and then the students had to fight their way out through the fire in order to become underground certified. So what you're seeing is actually soot from fire. Okay, before we go any deeper, how's everybody doing?
Good.
Good.
Do we have anybody that needs to be out? Well, it's okay, everybody's ready to go deeper then, huh?
Yep.
Okay, let's do this then.
You good here? Okay, Mark?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good.
That's what she said. Woo!
Folks, you get off on this side of the train, please. Come on up this way. Now we're going up 36 stairs.
It will.
No.
Anyone that needs to have a seat, we do have some benches there in the back room.
You okay?
Yeah.
What'd you do? Well, you didn't realize there was this.
Nice to meet you.
Sorry.
Oh, somebody lost your hat.
Somebody did, yeah.
Now, when we go to the,
Okay, folks, welcome into the scope. Now, scope is simply defined as the area that has been or is being mined out. So this was the original mining area in Bisbee. Now, scopes are created in the copper mining industry because copper forms just like coal in large masses. Unlike your gold and your silver, lead, zinc, and manganese that were mined out here that actually form in a vein, this does not. Now, when they find the copper here, 1877, they actually find the ore on the outside of this mountain. What they find is silver and lead. 1878, they begin clearing the front of the mountain to actually begin the mining, and they find copper oxide. So they know copper is in the area, but they have no way of finding it. When you get into your gold and your silvers, a lot of times you find the veins running on the surface, or you read the rock and you know you've got it in the area. Fairly easy to find because it is surface. Copper is not surface. Copper is internal. So when they find this copper, they're actually chasing the first vein of silver found in Bisbee. They're chasing it. They get right above where this wooden structure is, and you see the first tunnel cut in Bisbee, 400 feet to the surface. That is the silver tunnel. They get into here, and they actually, knowing the copper's here, but they find it strictly by accident. At that point, they bring in engineers out of New York City, because that's where Phelps Dodge headquarters is, and the engineers come in and explore it, and they say, hey, what you're going to have is a copper mine, not a silver mine, not a gold mine, but a copper mine. And so began the process of mining in Bisbee for copper. Now, this particular stope is the smallest one in Bisbee. It goes 30 feet below us. Directly behind me, about 75 feet, you find one roughly 15 times the size of this. It goes straight out the opposite direction, about 400 meters from here. You'll find not the largest one in Bisbee, but one of the larger ones in Bisbee. It is referred to as the ballpark. Now, it gets its name ballpark because it's large enough you'd build any professional sports stadium inside it. And you'd have room for parking as well. So it is a rather large mass of copper that came out of here. And this is the end results of that. Now, we are a copper mine. That's what we're known for, but we're also the #1 producers of gold in North America. But we had very few veins. But if you look right above here, on my right is, see the white, you're looking at lead infused with silver. In the middle you see green, that's copper. Drop right below that and you see the rust color. That is iron oxide, that is hematite. Inside this room you will find 3 iron oxides, hematite, urotite, and dopamite. Iron oxides carry gold. Now, when it's carrying the gold, it's not worth mining by itself, because it's very small flakes. But when it's embedded within your copper ore, within the same host rock that your copper is in, and you're taking the copper out, you take that with it. Take all 6 metals out of here, and then when you hit the smelting process, you liquefy everything, then your metals, just like water and oil. Heaviest is going to the bottom, lightest is coming to the surface. Water and oil. Your metals are the same way. Your heaviest metals, which for us is gold and lead, will go all the way to the bottom of the mix. In between, you'll find the others. Copper for metal is fairly light. It rises to the surface. On top of that, you have the waste, which is called slag. It is the lightest of all of them. At that point, you just screed. It's liquefied. You're going to pull one right off the other. As you go down, you take each one in order. So when you get to the other metals, other than copper, they are free. They're basically just a bonus plan for you. The gold paid for the operation for 12 years. Copper was pure profit at that point. Now, when this room is cut, it's before the days of the pneumatic drills, it's cut by hand. If I'm gonna step right where you are, and this is what we mean when we call cut by hand. Now, this is called hard rock drilling. Now, you're in a real hard limestone. Out of 10, it rates 6. 10 is a diamond. You're going to use a 10-pound single jack and a starter steel. You're going to do what's called collaring the hole, which is simply put, you're going to start the hole. You're going to strike this as hard as you can strike it, turn it a quarter of a turn, strike it, turn it, strike it, turn it. You collar the hole, you start it, you turn it to keep the steel from getting stuck, and make sure you've got a circular hole for the sliding in of the dynamite. You remove that, because what you're going to do, 10-hour shift, and that's what you're working 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. How many holes can you drill 3 to 4 feet deep, set them with dynamite, blast it, and have enough time left over to put it in a gunny sack and haul it out of here? So, once you've collared, you're going with a series of longer steels. This is a 22-inch steel. You're going to wind up with a steel that's 4 to 5 feet long. And you're no longer using a 10-pound single jack, but you're using a 28-pound double jack. And now that it is a 2-man operation, one man holds the steel. He is called the shaker. The other man is the striker. Now, the shaker can never let go of the steel. When it's being swung at, when it's being hit, he has to hold it. If he lets go of it, when it's hit, it'll simply fall out of the mountain. So your striker is back here. He's going to come around. He's going to hit this as hard as he can. He's going to swing right back. He's going to come into it again. Rhythm is basically strike, turn, strike, turn, strike, turn, until he drives that in there 3 or 4 feet. And they do it by candlelight. Before the days of carbide lamps and electricity down here, and so what they have, 2 men comes to work in here, each man is going to be issued 3 10-inch candles. You can only burn one at a time to make it through a 10-hour shift. So you're driving still as hard as you can by candlelight. And you've also got sticks of dynamite down here with you. So you've got to be real careful when you're doing the entire operation. And that's the way this entire room, that incline shaft you saw and the original tongue were all cut in this method. After that, they go into the pneumatic drills, which we'll see some of those in the back. And there is one on display right up here as well. Any questions on anything here? Or anything in general?
One thing, you said there's a room here that's big enough to put a, where is it at? I wanna see it.
It's for, I'm afraid that Freeport will not allow us to go there. It's so far across it. One way miners will get through an area is if I start into an area through a stope, when I first enter it, I'm going to set up a candle. And it's going to be lit, of course. When I go to the other side, I can always look back and see that candle. And that's going to tell me where to go.
Yeah.
It's so far across the ballpark, you cannot see the candle. So,
Did the guy holding the bit have to hold it with his hand?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he never lets go of it.
Gloves?
No.
No.
Broken hands?
Yes. Broken forearms, hands, wrists, fingers, all the above.
Two questions, actually. My grandfather was a coal miner in Pennsylvania.
Yes, ma'am.
Was it years ago, was coal mine in the same way?
Coal mine is its own beast.
Okay.
A coal mine is an extremist. You can't get into hard coal, but it's not near as hard as this. Plus, the dust from coal is flammable, as we know, and is also explosive. And inside coal mine, you will find methane gas. That's why they did use canaries in the coal mines. They did not use them here. There's no methane gas. Methane gas is created by decaying vegetation. Coal is decaying vegetation. But that is absolutely a project of its own, and my hat's off to guys for that.
He died in his early 50s from black lung.
Yeah, and that's one thing you didn't have here. You had silicosis, but silicosis was very easily controlled once they figured out what it was. They've never totally conquered black lung. Silicosis, created by underground, has been conquered.
And my other question is that bassy sound we're hearing. What is it?
I was really hoping nobody noticed that. Right up here, that original tunnel. The leading edge of that, you're gonna find a 50 horsepower fan that is 20 feet long. It is manufactured by big ass fans. It blows air in here constantly, that rumble. And if you don't believe that too, it's made by.
Oh, I know that, there's a company, yep.
Okay, you're aware of
Yeah.
that. Okay, any other questions? Okay, folks, so let's go down, back on the train and go further into this mountain.
This side.
Use your lights, because it is kind of dark and narrow going through here. Folks, go ahead and get off the train, and we'll meet.
Yeah, let's try.
backs against the wall. Stay in close enough you can hear me, and you can see what's going on here. Looks we're going to have to close in. We're not. Go ahead and close all the way down. Get to know your buddy. I mean your neighbor.
Make your buddy happy.
Come on down this way, folks. If anybody wants to step back in here, you're welcome to do so. You even have a chair just to put on the plunger.
Prostate check.
Hey, I tell you, been down that road. Hey, folks, if we make sure everybody back there is able to get in here and see and hear as well, I appreciate it.
This is all shored up.
Yes, sir.
We see wood.
The reason that this particular area is shored, you do shoring for two reasons in Bisbee. Most of it is not shored, it is not lagging, it's not supported, because you're in an extremely hard limestone. When you go through the tunnel, if you see an area that is lagging up or shored up, that's because of a number of reasons, but what you've got is soft ground, or you've got what we call a slip. And a slip is simply an area where you've got two sections of the mountain come together, but in between those sections, you can find a clay or a softer rock that allows the movement, so it's called a slip. So you put in the laggings to support that. But the reason this is shored up so strong is right behind me. Those are called transfer chute doors. Well, right behind those transfer chute doors, you'll find a shaft. That shaft is 22 feet across. It is 15 feet deep. Headless John just took off with the train. That's all right. We can walk out, not a problem. Anyway, it's 22 feet across, 15 feet deep, goes straight up. This mine has 5 levels above us, where the Queen had 4. So we're down here, the guys above us are mining. They have no way to get their ore out. What occurs is they dump the ore into that chute, it then gravity feeds down here. And in the 1800s up to 1907, the way they operate it, the guy would fill one of these carts about 3/4 of the way full. He's got over about 2,800 pounds. Then he push it outside the mine, one man, one cart. You push it out, you dump it, push it back in, fill it up, push it back out. Beginning miner's position, beginning miners 15 years of age. And there are thousands of chutes like this. If you're at this particular location, you have to push it 1,500 feet. That is to where you bought your tickets. That was the smelter. One man pushes out there, dumps it, pushes it back in. And then in 1907, they come underground with mules. Now, with the mules, they're trained on the surface to pull 4 carts. And this is what the mules would hear. That's the sound of the carts hooking up. When the mule, the way you operate, you back your mule up to the first cart, tie it into it, or hook it into it. Then when the mule hears that third chain rattle, it automatically begins to pull. Well, by now, miners are bonus miners. So a bunch of them get together and say, hey, if we hook up 5th cart, bonus miner means you make more money if you move more tonnage. They figured, okay, hook up a 5th cart, the mule will never know. They back the mule up. Mule start pulling on that third one, they pull back on the reins, mule hear that 5th hookup, and it would just stand there and stare at him. No. I am unionized. I don't do 5, I do 4, and that's all I do. And they'd sit down before they'd pull it. And then when the mule here disconnected that 5th cart, they'd stand up and look at the miners, begin braying, so it's laughing at them and pull the 4 out. They would not pull that 5th cart out of here. And then in the 1920s, the motor that brought you guys underground, or brought us underground, comes underground. Not only does it bring men and equipment in, it also will haul 10 to 12 1-ton carts out of here at about 8 miles an hour. So production goes way up. Then if you look above here though, you see a bare copper wire. Well, that carries 240 volts. And they come underground with trolleys, and you can see one of the trolleys next to the chain link fence by our building. Has 46 emblazed across the front. Now, the trolley has the arm comes up, it contacts this, and when it makes contact with this, the electric circuit is completed, and it will begin to pull.
Well, it doesn't pull at about 8 miles an hour and only 10 or 12 carts. It pulls 80 carts at 35 to 40 miles an hour.
Wow.
So production really goes up at this point. Phelps Dodge continued using trains and trolleys underground until they closed the mines in 1975. And even to this day, if you go underground in a mine of any size, you're going to find trains, you're going to find trolleys, and you're going to find full-size dump trucks underground. So, any questions on anything right here?
So they just abandoned the equipment when they closed it?
A lot of it they did, 90% of it was buried underground, dumped off in shafts. It was gonna cost more to haul it out of here than what it would be worth.
The numbers that are on the overhead sometimes, is that how deep we are?
Yes, sir.
Or how
That is
far?
how far we are in
Yeah.
from the steel door. Where the train is parked, you're 1,200 feet in from that steel door. Talk of vertical, and you're about 1,100 feet underground. When we make our final stop in the back room back here, or our next stop in that back room, you're gonna be right at 2,000 feet vertically underground.
What's the point of this canvas duct?
Inside this mine, we've always had good luck with good quality air. All 29 mines in Bisbee do interlock. It's what we do with the ductwork we have here, and that fan at the original stop is we push back against air coming to us from the other 28 mines. Because as long as those have been closed, that air could very well be very stale. So what you do is like a house you're yanking asbestos out of it, you have to set up the positive air. You do have the same thing here. You gotta set up that positive air to push back against any stale air that might be coming in from another direction. Any other questions?
Yeah, you know, all the hard work they did, what were they making back then? How much money?
In the 1800s, when the mine first opened, 10-hour shift, 6 days a week, $3 a day. But looking at perspective on it, when a loaf of bread's a penny, a steak dinner with all the trim and a couple of drinks, 10 to 12 cents. Hotel room will run you about 18 cents a night. And a cowboy is only making 20 to 25 a month. So, you know, if you're willing to risk your life, mining has always paid well and still does to this day.
$3 a day?
$3 a day. Now today,
Now today,
if you're laying this railroad track, you're called a cross cutter. Cross cutter's making about 50, and this was when the mines closed in 75. It's making about $55 a day, and anything over 7 feet of track a day, he gets paid $100 a foot for that extra track.
Wow.
You're the raised miner, which is the guy that drills strictly overhead, he's the best paid, he's hitting about $65 a day. Anything over 6 feet, he gets paid $100 a foot. If you're a
10-hour
mucker,
days?
well, it depends on the time in history. Now there's basically 8-hour shifts. It could go up as high as 12 hours during wartime. 10 to 12 hours. The guy that is actually blasting out and hauling the ore out, his base, he's running about 45 to 50 a day. But then when he gets above his minimum required tonnage every day, he gets bonus for tonnage above that. So all of them could pretty easily double, sometimes triple their salary.
That's not 8 hours sitting behind a desk, that's 8 hours.
During the war, did they have women working too?
No, sir. No. You know, I used to say they're bad luck underground, and I got some rather bad statements. But
Miners were exempt from serving in the war then?
well, and I'll cover that in a second. But that women underground was considered bad luck back then. So what Phelps Dodge did, they owned the hotels, they owned the mercantile stores, the New York Stock Exchange, the theaters, everything. So Phelps Dodge couldn't employ them underground, so they employ them in these other locations and pay them the same base salary as a miner's base salary. So that kind of set that off. Now, I'm sorry, what was the other half of your question?
Were the miners exempt?
Oh, exempt, no, well, what occurred, there was some exemption to it, but a lot of miners, the pneumatic drills come out. Let's step down to the pneumatic drills, and I'll tell you right there, because then I can show it to you. Let's go down here about 20 feet to the right-hand side where we get the pneumatics. Now, you're going to walk through a set of steel doors. These doors are called air-controlled or fire-controlled doors. There's thousands of them throughout the mines. This one was installed in 1917.
Now, let's do the older folks.
No, I'm New York. I don't mean that, I don't mean that. Experience. Yes. Oh, seasoned, beautifully seasoned. I know, I still
Okay.
Okay, getting to the question, were miners exempt from the draft of World War I? In every war, there's always been exemptions for certain professions throughout the war because of the demand, and that's true in the mining industry to a degree. But what happens in 1907, pneumatic drills come out. They actually come out in the 1880s, early 80s, early 1890s. There was a problem with them. They were called widowmakers. You crank them up, they'd fill a room like this full of dust. Miners were dying of silicosis. First they thought it was tuberculosis, then after autopsies the ME said, no, it's not tuberculosis, it's silicosis. So they quit using the drills until they could figure out in the early 1900s how to put water through, putting it into the machine. To work the machine was easy, but then to drive it through a 8-foot steel bit so it wets down the mountain reduces the silicosis or the silica or the dust, then they went back to using them. And this leads to miners' exemption. Because in 1907, a lot of miners and companies were still refusing to use them. The unions refused to use them. Then in 1907, Phelps Dodge, as well as all the other major miners, comes down and tells the unions, we don't care what you want, you're going to start using them. The demand for copper is skyrocketing. Plus, we know already predict we're going into World War I, we're going into Europe. So Phelps Dodge said, hey, that's fine, you go to union or you can quit or you'll be fired, it's your choice. Be aware of one thing, the government is hiring right now and it's called the draft. And if you quit, you are subject to being drafted. So a bunch of the miners quit. They didn't believe the company. A bunch of the miners quit because they didn't want to use these machines. The guys get to the induction center and they look on their paperwork, said work history. You were a copper miner in Bisbee, Arizona, is that right? Yep, sure was. Well, guess what? You're now in the Army. Your duty station is Bisbee, Arizona, as a miner. You're going to be a soldier while you're there. And you get paid a soldier's salary, which is a fraction of the miner's salary, and you cannot earn bonus. So they were right back here behind me.
That'll teach them.
Right here, the two bigger drills here, these are out of the 1930s. They're extremely heavy. They weigh about 350 pounds apiece. In order to drill 21 holes, 8 feet deep, it takes you from 5 to 6.5 hours, depending on how hard the ground is. You're going to drill 4 holes 7 feet off the ground. Then you're going to come down in a pattern. Your last 4 or 6 inches off the ground, all 8 feet deep. Well, this machine comes out, it's Garner Denver jackleg. When it comes out in the 1950s, in fact, this one's still being manufactured today. Considered the best drill ever made when it came out. It's still considered the best drill since the 1950s. That's why it's still being manufactured. Weight, over 300 pounds, 100 pounds. 5 to 6.5 hours, drill 21 holes, 8 feet deep, 2 to 2.5 hours. It runs over 3.5 times the speed of this. 60 to 80 drill bits, drill 21 holes. One drill bit in this machine will drill an average of 120 holes before you change it out. Wow. It's an advancement in technology. You go from a tungsten steel to a carbide steel, and the speed of it is just tremendous. Plus, this one will push 150 pounds of air pressure, where the others can't handle that much air. And this one operates at around 90 decimals when it is fully operational. Downside, this is the jack leg. It's what they're named after. 150 pounds of air pressure will push it into the mountain. As it extends, it pushes inward and pushes your drill in. The downside to it, if this is what we call, doesn't skip, which means it breaks loose from the ground, it'll shoot straight back 8.5 to 11.5 feet instantly with 155 pounds of air pressure.
That's why my wife had me stand.
The truth is, no, I bet you got a new insurance policy on you.
Okay, we're okay now.
So you don't stand, yeah, you don't stand behind it, and you don't stand over the top of it. That probably goes without explanation, but that will rearrange your personality and heartbeat should it break your down, and you're standing over the top of it. So you do not stand over the top of these things.
No longer singing bass.
That's right. You'll be a high tenor at best. And everybody throughout 2,200 miles of tunnel will know you rode the hammer. Any questions about these? Okay, folks, let's go down, hang a left, and go into the.
One quick question, so they drilled 18 feet in there?
8.
8 feet?
Yes.
And then they put dynamite?
Don't forget your water bottle.
186 dynamite.
Jake, your water bottle.
Man, pretty gun space flat.
So then, everybody clear out of course and they blow it. How long till they just come back in?
Yeah, that's the kind of, that allows the dust and all the poison percentage.
But they were over here to check that.
No, we're gonna remind you to go home. That's it. Yeah, so hold it up.
Yeah, I just
Put the water on the
And we're not as near as loud.
Okay.
And they didn't turn as fast, didn't have as much power.
I get to go first.
They-
She's second. We're together.
No, we're
actually.
together.
You know, I always thought we was ahead of our time. We got two seniors here.
Yeah.
What we're looking at is the great granddaddy to the plastic porta-johns you now find at construction. I don't think when it's sitting there empty, weighs over 500 pounds. When it needs to be serviced, right behind these folks, you will find a cage, which is an underground elevator, thousands of cages throughout the mines. You have pushes it onto that, takes it to the surface, parks Silver City sewer main, puts high pressure water hoses, turns the valve in the center to open it, and flushes it for about an hour. Downside to these, somebody asked me about cockroaches earlier. When these are not in use, you do close them. When you open them to use them, hundreds of cockroaches will come running out at you. And oh, by the way, cockroaches, the big ones do bite. So you can imagine that scenario. You're sitting up there with a few hundred cockroaches come running out, you still want to get up there and maybe pick the thing right in the cockroach. But that's what these will be used for. But this particular room can be used for anything from mules to storage of dynamite, to storage of equipment, to storage of these. And there'll be thousands of these throughout the mines. Anywhere you find the miners working, and in Bisbee, in the later years, there'd be around 1,500 sites being worked at all times. Any questions about anything else? Okay, folks, that pretty well runs us out of time. We'll go back, get on the train, face the opposite direction. Now, my partner's gonna be there with the red can, take your tags from me. And then you get on the train, we'll face back the other direction and head to the circle. So there are no other questions. All right, sounds
Oh,